Good evening from Lerwick in Shetland. I'm Tom Morton, and it's a great privilege to be sharing with you Up Helly Aa 2025. You may be watching on the Northlink Facebook page, on Promote Shetland, on YouTube. You may be listening and watching via Fox News, Reuters, or indeed the BBC. But you're all welcome to take part in what is Europe's biggest fire festival. 1,000 geysers will soon be parading the streets of Lerwick, armed with flaring torches and following the Viking squad, the Jarl squad, and the galley, which will head for Valhalla in a burst of flames at the end of the evening. Well, the end of this part of the evening and the beginning of a whole night of partying and celebration in halls throughout the town. We have all kinds of things due to happen, all kinds of excitement, which will begin with the lighting up at 7:30. And what you're seeing now is the town hall in Lerwick with the wonderful stained glass very clearly visible, and the senior Jarl squad, the only squad allowed to dress as Vikings, led by the Geyser Jarl, Captain Callum Grains, who is Chief Executive of Lerwick Port Authority, and he is King Eystein Magnusson for the duration of this day, right through until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm Tom Morton, and we are bringing you this Shetland Webcams, sponsored by Northlink Ferries and Promote Shetland, and supported by GTS and Shetland Broadband. Stick with us for the light up, which will happen in approximately 25 minutes. Well, actually, there'll be nothing approximate about it because this festival is run very, very much the time, and that is spectacular in its own right. And then we will move to the procession, which takes us through the streets of Lerwick, darkened and very atmospheric, and thankfully in conditions which are really not bad at all, not too windy and quite dry at the moment. Then for the final burning of the galley, which is called the Bussen, in the King George V playing field. You can comment on any of the Facebook pages, so keep an eye on those. And it's also on YouTube. You can chat there and tell us where you are, what you're doing, and if you're enjoying the spectacle. Many people gathering here in the flesh from all over the world. And they've been taking the opportunity, many of them, to travel throughout Shetland and see some of the most spectacular scenery in Europe, as well as this, the biggest fire festival. And it's happening up Helly Aa at the end of the Yule season, which is what Up Helly Aa arguably means, also means the coming of the light. And thankfully we're beginning to see the end of Shetland's darkest days at this time of year, as spring gradually begins to encroach on the darkness. And great to hear from some people on the Northlink website who are saying from Norwich and Norfolk comes Heidi Louise Kerrison. I would love to experience Up Helly Aa in person one day. Barbara Graham, I love Shetland and Up Helly Aa, but it's the people who make it, and that's so true. Gerald King, great to see this live. We're from Canada and we're in Shetland in September. Looking forward to that. Shona Manson is in Tamrat in Morocco. A little bit warmer than it is here. Meanwhile, over on YouTube, lots of people commenting there, and Bristol, Virginia brings us Whitney Roar. Graham Gilbertson is suggesting that everyone has a great night. I suspect Graham may well not be too far from Lerwick. Kelly and Tracy, I love this. Have a good time. Jim Graves is watching from Wigan, and a big welcome to the Higgins family who are watching in Yorkshire and who were concerned that they were going to miss it this year, but hopefully you're on board. And I know that they have been celebrating with Shetland food and drink. And there is a big element of eating and drinking as part of Up Helly Aa, and in the run-up to it with the Taste of Shetland organisation having special tasting events at the Shetland Museum and Archives yesterday. So lots of eating and drinking and celebrating to come. But first, the fire. Now, you may have heard me say that only the Jarl squad this year, the chief squad of Vikings in the procession, are allowed to dress as Vikings. The rest are, I think, 47 squads dressed in various outlandish ways to do with the theme of the performance that they will make at the parties in the various halls later on. But you will see other people dressed as Vikings in quite different uniforms. And these are former Jarls from the past Up Helly Aas who act as marshals. And there was a move a couple of years ago from a new chief inspector of police here in Shetland to have all these marshals wearing high-vis jackets over their Viking gear. But that has now been, thankfully, abandoned. I think, to be honest, Viking attire is probably high visibility enough. Various people watching on YouTube, thanks to Promote Shetland for that. Hello from Overstrand in North Norfolk, says Nature Nerd. We love Shetland and hope to be back for our 4th visit later this year. Jacob Stokes is in Seattle, Washington. And Kelly is in Vegas. You behave yourself in Vegas. What happens there stays there. And we have all kinds of people getting in touch on YouTube, on the Northlink Facebook page as well, and on the Promote Shetland Facebook page. Good evening, Shetland, says Gary Alvey via Northlink. Normally watching from Sherwood Forest, but I'm working tonight in Sheffield. Have a great night. That isn't the actual light up of the main procession, but just the lighting of torches for the marshals and for various other senior people who will be guiding, aiding and abetting the procession. That's happening in front of the town hall. And the light up itself will take place on the hillhead, which is just down from where you're seeing that amber light at the moment. Is that amber or pink, perhaps? Might describe it better. We have drone shots as well. We have drones in the air, officially and legally allowed, and some of the shots that you'll be seeing later in the night are really, really spectacular. We've already had the Junior Up Helly Aa, and it has been, I think, some of the best coverage we've ever had. Now, I'll tell you one interesting thing I should point out, that members of the public who are here, with a few exceptions, are wearing hats. If you're familiar with the Shetland TV show, one of the most significant things about that, which is incorrect, is that people aren't wearing hats. Hats in Shetland are very, very important because, let's face it, without them, your ears would get very cold indeed. Half your body heat disappears through your head. And there's a Viking not wearing a hat, but he is well equipped with copious amounts of hair, which is probably quite a good thing. And just to fill in the background of Up Helly Aa's history, it goes back to celebrations which originally happened in the rural parts of Shetland to mark the end of the Yule season. and then gradually spread to Lerwick. Normally at the end of the Napoleonic Wars is the time identified of young men who came back from the Napoleonic Wars and were basically looking for a bit of action. So they began parading in the streets. They had tar barrels which they set fire to, and often set fire to other buildings as a result, until it all got a bit out of hand in the 19th century. Late 19th century, things began to change, and due especially to the influence of a man called J. Haldane Burgess and a book called The Viking Path, people began to get interested in the notion of Shetland's Viking heritage as something to celebrate. And J. Haldane Burgess is a really interesting character because he was three things. He was an historian, he was a very convinced Baptist, and he was also a socialist. So he put these three things together in The Viking Path, which is really a book about how Christianity and a kind of gentle socialism conquered Viking culture, and then began to celebrate the whole idea of this in Up Helly Aa. And he actually wrote the Up Helly Aa song, which is sung by the Earl Squad, sung by all the geysers at various points in the evening. Very, very important figure, because I think as well as being a Baptist and a socialist and somebody who wanted peace, he was very much in love with the warlike idea of Viking culture. Okay, the crowd's gathering, and we've got about a quarter of an hour to go to the official light up, which is one of the most spectacular moments. And if you look out for the shadows that are cast by the flares and the torches as they begin to light up, shadows of Viking ravens' wings helmets against the walls of Lerwick. Cheer for the lights going out. That's the main street lights going out in Lerwick. Cheryl Arredondo Willis can't wait to be in Lerwick in 2027. Is in Leicestershire, and Lewis Fulton says hi. Just seeing the Earl Squad moving into position now. Josh Inkster is in Auckland, New Zealand. New Zealand, very, very strong connections with Shetland. Former Prime Minister of New Zealand was born here, and many Shetlanders, of course, moved to New Zealand, immigrated there. Hello to Leslie, who was born in Shetland but is in Blairgowrie in Perthshire, like many people watching and listening tonight who have a Shetland heritage or Shetlandic heritage. I'm absolutely certain many people are feeling the emotional pull of Up Helly Aa because it is a great time of celebration and memory. Claire Johnson being a classic example of that. I'm watching from Warrington and feeling homesick because it's Up Helly Aa Day. I loved watching the junior procession before, and so much more to look forward to. Now, what you're watching is from just below the town hall. The angular building, the modern building you can see there is the library. Beyond that, you can just about make out the old St Ringan's Church, which is now the main debating chamber for Shetland Islands Council. And below that is where the main lighting up will take place very, very shortly now, in about 10 minutes' time. And here we're looking at the entrance to the King George V playing field. And it's been changed this year so that there's now, I think for safety reasons, a ramp and is it a sharp left turn and right turn? I think the procession will divide. Be very interesting to see how this works out. And the burning will take place in the play park further to the left of this picture. Tremendous sense of excitement here in Lerwick as we wait the lighting up and the beginning of the procession. Roads have been closed since quite early today, actually, and some roads were closed yesterday in Lerwick, which is quite unusual for Up Helly Aa. I think there has been a slight change in the route, but it's difficult to tell exactly. Sometimes the procession is shortened if the weather is particularly bad, but I think the weather is reasonably okay tonight, despite yesterday being very breezy indeed, and indeed last week we had the remnants of Storm Ewan causing all kinds of trouble. Oh, it's good to see there's somebody there from the Environment Agency, according to the motto on the back of their jacket. Back to the Northlink Ferries Facebook page, and good to see some customers there. Alison Lancaster is watching from Alva. Jackie Richards, I am watching this now. My son lives in Orkney. I visit, but one day I will get to visit Shetland and watch this live. Janet Whitlock is in Farnborough in Hampshire, and good to have you on board. Alison Lancaster, as I say, is in Alva, which is near Alva, but not the same. Now, Melinda Lamont is in Florida and wishing that she was in Shetland. I'm sure there are one or two people in Shetland who quite like to be in Florida, but on a night like this, there really is only one place to be, and that is in Lerwick. Sam says, Phyllis and Stephen watching from Glasgow had to postpone as her beautiful little granddaughter Emily arrived much earlier than anticipated. Congratulations to her mummy and daddy, Kate and Stephen. Duncan Ross is watching from Halkirk and suggests that Loki, the Norse god of mischief, may bring you merriment. I don't know if Loki will be strictly necessary, but we shall wait and see. Nicky Trail is saying hello to my friend Jolene Garrick and all the other friends I have at 60 North. Have a fantastic night. Kyle Doherty is watching from Edinburgh and sending a big shout out to our flatmate Becca, who is a Viking this year. Now, the interesting thing about the Earl squad, as my friend Davey Gardner was pointing out, is that in the past, in rural Up Helly Aas, there have been Vikings in the Earl squads, in the other Up Helly Aas. There are 11 Up Helly Aas in total. And then princesses. So women have been allowed to take part, but mainly dressed as Viking princesses. Now that's changed. In fact, you do get female Viking warriors in the rural Up Helly Aas. And I think for the first time in Lerwick, the entire Jarl squad is composed of Viking warriors, male and female. Members of Callum Grains's family and others too. So it's women, men, old and young, all Viking warriors, all princes and princesses in lots of ways. Good to have Tally watching from Oslo in Norway, while Gillian is in Brittany, which is very wet and windy. Can't say I can get too upset about that. Catherine is in Staffordshire, see you next year. Judith Parkin is in Newcastle upon Tyne. I only found this link from Northlink Ferries and so pleased I'll have to visit. Have a great evening. Just on 5 minutes to go, you'll know that the light up is starting because there will be an enormous bang. The flag flying over the town hall roof, by the way, is the Raven banner. Ravens being an important symbol for Up Helly Aa. And you'll notice that the helmets of the Jarl squad, when you get to see them in due course, are raven's wings. The Jarl squad, the Chief Viking squads, I think there's about 60 of them altogether this year, have been on the go since early this morning. They reveal the bill, which is put at the market cross in the middle of Lerwick, and is a series of jokes and jibes about various events and personalities. And then the Jarl squad parades with the galley revealed for the first time, the basin. Photographs are taken and various visits take place. First of all, mostly and most importantly to the town hall for the civic reception, and then to schools, care homes and various establishments round and about Lerwick. Each year the Jarl squad has a song, a particular song they learn and sing and perform in each hall later on after the burning has taken place, and it's usually a favourite of the Geyser Jarl. This year it's Country Roads, as in Take Me Home, West Virginia. So if you're listening in West Virginia, there is a direct musical connection to this year's Up Helly Aa.
We were supposed to be like top of the bottom. We were supposed to be top of the bottom.
Only a couple of minutes to go now until the light up at the beginning of the procession, but a quick hello to Adrian Hills, who's in Erie, Pennsylvania, where yet more snow will be falling tonight. Greetings to the family of Callum Aitken, especially his grandparents Christine and Colin Smith. Chris Wood is in Australia. And Wendy Gilbert came to the South Mainland Up Helly Aa, Smooha. I've never experienced anything like it. It's totally brilliant. We're watching from Boston in Lincolnshire. The original Boston. You're watching coverage of the Lerwick Up Helly Aa from Shetland live. Courtesy of Shetland Webcam, sponsored by Northlink Ferries and Promote Shetland, and supported by GTS and Shetland Broadband. I'm Tom Morton with you until the galley has been burnt. Sandra King says hello from Vancouver Island. I visited Shetland in September. It was magical. My great-grandfather was a Shetlander, and I guess I am a bit too. And Tennessee, welcome. We visited in August from a Viking cruise and toured the museum and City Hall. Yeah, well, you can see the City Hall, or the Town Hall, in the pictures at the moment, with the clock just coming up to 7:30. And one of our drone shots showing the whole of Lerwick with the sea glinting on the Victoria Pier, next to the Victoria Pier, along the waterfront. And there it goes. The signal that the whole great procession is about to begin. And there is the lighting up beginning all along the lower hillhead in Lerwick. And what a sight that is. For many people, this is one of their favourite sights of the whole evening. It's like the streets literally burst into flame. And although it looks unsafe, it really isn't. Some lovely shots there. Many people capturing this on their phones. You can see the houses and the smoke and the light. And a river of fire as all the torches, 1,000 geysers, 1,000 men and women light their torches and prepare for this great procession in what is Europe's biggest and, I think, best fire festival. Marking the beginning of the end of winter, the end of Yule, and the advent, not quite yet, of spring. Kari Midgard Rasberg, appropriately watching from Maløy in Norway. I experienced Up Helly Aa and Lerwick in 2019. It was brilliant. I would feel quite at home amidst the Vikings. They have done DNA analysis of many native Shetlanders, and the connections with Norway are very real. Familiar name, Ruth Sharville. Greetings, watching you tonight in Chepstow. Happy memories of many good nights when we lived in the Isles and helped out in one of the halls. Have a great night. And Neil Bryce, former Episcopal priest here, says, could you give a shout out to my mum, Jean Bryce, who is watching ill in bed. I am at her side. All the best to you both.
It was probably 2002, so.
Andy Ross says he can almost feel the heat through my TV. Well, just check your TV, Andy, just in case there is something wrong with it. We don't want any accidents. So, I don't think our insurance covers that. Hello from Aberdeen, says Cindy. I used to work as a Mandarin teacher in Shetland last year. Very excited to watch this live show. I want to send my best wishes to all my colleagues and friends in Shetland. And just proving there that little shot of the squad with their torches that there are trees in Shetland too. Sometimes not very big ones. There are some quite big pieces of forest as well. Ed, who was watching, I know, the Junior Up Helly Aa, Ed Freshwater, says a very good evening from Birmingham. We've had our tatty soup and burned a wee galley in the garden just in time for the main event. Yes, you can take the boy out of Shetland, but you can't take Shetland out of the boy. Tatty soup, roasted mutton soup made with a particular form of mutton which is dried and slightly smoked and salted, and absolutely delicious. If you if you like roasted mutton soup, which I absolutely do, and it is the very best thing to prepare for Up Helly Aa and to consume during it. Trevor Kemmuir says it's great to see the Jimison boys and so many Kent faces in the Earl squad this year. From an old Weasel boy in New York. Now the squads that make up the Earl squad are squads that have paraded in Up Helly Aa and been involved in Up Helly Aa all down the years. And it's taken, I think, 17 years for Callum to become Geyser Jarl, to graduate through the ranks, if you like. 2 extra years because of the cancellation due to COVID. But the Whiteness and Weasel squad is the squad that has become or transmogrified into the Jarl squad this year. Callum, being the Chief Executive of Lerwick Port Authority, has invited the Chief Executives of Stornoway Port Authority, and I think, is it Montrose, which are free ports or ports which are independent, to also take part, because it is the right of the Geyser Jarl to invite his friends and colleagues to be in his squad as well and be Vikings just for one day. Jimmy Carlisle is in Adelaide, South Australia with Paula, hoping to catch a glimpse of my grandchildren Thora and Vinny with their dad John in the Jarl squad. 3 cheers for Up Helly Aa. Seabirds and Seals, who do daily wildlife Nos boat tours to the island of Nos in Lerwick, says we would like to wish Callum Grames, his squad and all geysers a fabulous evening. Hello to everyone watching who has joined us in the past in our boat tours. And Ginny is a North Maven lass watching from East Kilbride. I would love to see a live stream of a country Up Helly Aa, she says again. North Maven for preference, of course, but Delta might be technically easier. Well, the technical aspects of doing a country Up Helly Aa, and we have done the South Mainland Up Helly Aa twice, are actually quite tricky. And the last time we did Smuha, for various reasons, partly the weather and partly because of technical problems, it was a little bit difficult. And also the fact that I was doing the commentary while at sea in the Northlink Ferry, it wasn't just as perfect as we would like. So there are tricky things involved in the country Up Helly Aa. It's also just the fact that we don't have buildings quite so handy to put cameras on. Okay, we're just about ready, I think, to start the procession, and we'll move. Well, I won't personally move, but the Jarl squad will move to the front of the procession with the galley, whose name is Bissen. The Geyser Jarl will be in the galley until we get to the King George V play park, where he will step out of the galley before the burning, which is always a good idea. And what a spectacular ship this is. Really, really wonderful job. A year's work has gone into this. As soon as this festival is over, the galley boys start working again on next year's festival. And the whole organisation of the parade, the procession, is marshalled by last year's Jarl. That's a tradition, and Richard Moore, who was last year's Jarl, is the man in charge of making sure that all goes off swimmingly. And as I was mentioning earlier, this is the Up Helly Aa song as written by J. Haldane Burgess, tuned by Thomas Manson, and Captain Callum Grains, who is a proper naval captain, is in the galley there. Captain of a very different kind of ship from normal. Chief Executive of Lerwick Port Authority, which is one of the most successful independent ports in the UK. Partly to do with tourism, cruise ships, but also oil traffic, oil-related developments offshore, wind farm developments offshore, and also the breaking up of redundant oil platforms from the North Sea. Viv says, it's always such a shame to burn the ship. I know what you mean, Viv, but it is also a great triumphant moment, the conflagration at the end, and so much a part of the festival itself. Some of the rural festivals have boats which are burnt and boats which float. The boats which are burnt, perhaps not quite as spectacular as the ones that are actually used as seagoing ships. Rachel says the Norwegian Scot in me makes me proud for the Islanders. And Neil Robertson watching from the Golden Jubilee Hospital in Clyde. Is it the hospital or the hotel? Complete with new hip. It's the hospital. Hopefully next year. Ex-Jarl Olav Haraldsson, Neil, well done. Get well soon. I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh my goodness, a shout out to Ayla, who was accidentally set alight at last year's Up Helly Aa. Not completely set alight. A few mild singes, and who this year's home in Bressa, celebrating with her husband and baby little Leon. Sometimes you have to stop in the procession in order that so many people can effectively and safely make these turns in the Lerwick streets. All of that happening. Martin Hutchison is watching with my friend Hayley Welsh right now. She's originally from Scalloway. I would absolutely love a shout out. Well, all the best to you, Hayley. And Lisa says, thank you very much for streaming this live worldwide. I've wanted to see this for years, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Robbie Sanderson says, all the best to the Jarl from the Ocean Aquila boys in Norway, wishing we were all home for it. Now, it's always good to see what some of the squads might speculate on what the squads might do in their performances, the skits that they perform at the various halls which they go to after the burning. And you can see some of these costumes are, well, let's say enigmatic, I think might be the best word. It's all a deadly secret. And if you have the programme for Up Helly Aa this year, which you buy in the morning, it's got a list of the squads. 47 of them. You obviously have Eystein Magnusson, who is the Jarl squad, and then you've got the Karate Kid, If Italians Did Tenants, Deadpool, Rock in the Jailhouse, Burradorn, the Rubbish Orchestra, and I think the one that I'm most interested to see is Tourist Electric Cycle Proficiency Training, and this is because cruise ships arriving in Shetland over the spring and summer have taken to arriving with large quantities of electric bikes and letting loose some of their passengers on Shetland roads in large groups, up to 20, 30 people on electric bicycles. Possibly failing to take into account two things. Shetland road usage and the wind. And it has caused a few, well, let's just say, raised local eyebrows. Now, Whitney is celebrating with some mead. Mead being a honey-based liqueur. Is that liqueur or just a drink? Been watching every year since the live streaming began. Great to have you here. Paul and Ruth Broughton met some wonderful Osprey friends last year. What, real Ospreys? And Simon Beadle says, greetings from Derby. We were watching for the second year, desperately wishing we were there. All of that coming in the YouTube feed, which is done by Promote Shetland. Northlink Ferries. What have we got here? Jolene, Michael and Rory Leftwich are all homesick, but watching from their home in Clacton-on-Sea. Is Clacton-on-Sea a real place? It's be. Neil says, hello Tom, missing being there, but watching online. Love to you all. Love from everyone, Shetland to you, Neil. Thanks for all you've done. Shona Manson's loving being able to watch, and Kirsty Evans is in East Devon, while Lucy Dunham is in Delta Junction, Alaska. Now that is not local. Great shot of the galley there. Bisson, captained by Callum Grains. King, Eystein Magnusson, who in the sagas was a bit of a harbour authority in his own right. Janet Duke was in Up Helly Aa in 2020, and she is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have been to Albuquerque. In fact, it was the last place I flew out of when I was out there touring with Delamitri, and it looked very nice, but I was only there for 5 minutes. Great shot of the Jarl there. shield, axe, and sword. Well, it's a short sword, or a very long knife, shall we say. Coming along King Harold Street, some of the grand local houses, some of which host their own private parties, as well as the ones in the halls. And in the past, in the origins, in the early 20th century, late 19th century, that would have been where the parties took place, not so much in halls. But now it is very organised. In fact, I passed the Northlink ferry terminal, which actually becomes a hall for this occasion. It's quite fascinating, actually, because all the windows are covered over, so you can't see what's going on inside. There'll be lots of fun. Now, here's a spectacular move shown in spectacular fashion from our drone coverage. This is not easy. Sniffy's watching in Ohio, USA. Up Helly Aa falls right around the anniversary of my father's passing. It always feels like an incredible way to remember and celebrate him. Thank you, Tom, and all. Thank you for listening and watching. And one or two people are saying that they're now moving to Shetland as a result of this. Well, there you go. You'd be very welcome. My dad always said that Shetland ponies are so short due to a weight-gravity combination. Is this true? Undoubtedly. And Eleanor Barley, Sandra Bartley from Weasdale is watching from Warminster with her family, sending love to all our friends and family in Shetland. She's with her grandchildren and great-grandson here, enjoying the night. Grateful to Andrea, who is watching in Hamburg in Germany. Thank you for the commentary. My dad Christian is watching too. I'm translating simultaneously on the phone since he doesn't speak English. Oh, well, that's good. Now, I know I mentioned that it was advised to wear some kind of headgear in Shetland because of the weather, but you'll notice that some of the geysers and some of the squads are dressed, well, skimpily would be one way of describing it. Of course, you get a bit of heat from the torches, but still in all, one would hope that some form of thermal underwear is in place. Not getting to the third verse of the galley song there, which has tended to be tacked on to the end of the Up Helly Aa song these days in the traditional performances that we have of the three big songs of Up Helly Aa, which are the Up Helly Aa song, music by Thomas Manson, works by J.J. Haldane Burgess, written in 1897. The galley song, which was the last thing you heard there, or at least the first two verses of it. Just to read you the last verse. Bonds of brotherhood inherit, or strife the curtain draw, let our actions breathe the spirit of our grand Up Helly Aa, which I think illustrates the essentially pacifist nature of Up Helly Aa when it was founded. Okay, we're beginning to move towards the play park, towards the King George V. That's the gates there. And the last exit of some of the people who've been preparing for the entrance of 1,000 geysers and more than 1,000 torches, as well as, of course, the galley Bysynth. Michael Ballman is watching from a very warm Hurghada in Egypt, originally from Shetland. I've been in the Highlands for the last 4 years, and now you're in Egypt, presumably on holiday. Murulbark in Australia is where Andy Riley is watching this from. And Giovanni Seri is in Rome, Italy. Gosh, I'm getting a bit hungry. Just as all this talk of roasted mutton soup and bannocks, of course, which will be happening in the various halls later on. And this despite having had an absolutely delicious fish supper earlier. Now, one thing I should mention that I can't really communicate to you, and which you can't absorb from the visuals or from listening, is the smell of this, the smell of the burning torches, the paraffin that's used to soak them. And it is quite extraordinary. And it is, I don't know, a real heart-lifting experience if you're somebody who's been used to Up Helly Aa. And I have been experiencing Up Helly Aa for nigh on 40 years. It is something that immediately takes you there and immediately lifts the spirit, I think. Makes you look forward to what's going to happen in the rest of the evening. Loads of dancing, loads of music, and traditionally, of course, not much drinking, because Up Helly Aa was founded in its modern guise on the basis of temperance and total abstinence, in fact, in the original sort of, especially after the First World War, that very much came to the fore. It's a mixture of intellectual pacifism and total abstinence. The total abstainers society, I think I'm right in saying, was very much involved in the formation of Up Helly Aa as we know it now. And in some of the halls, there is no obvious bar, and drink is kept in a separate room which you have to supply yourself and store out of sight. Though I think it's fair to say that things have grown a little bit more relaxed in that respect, and some of the halls are indeed licensed in the normal way. But the other aspect of it is, of course, it's a family event, and you'll often have youngsters in the hall as well. And so the galley Bisson enters the King George V Play Park. Lynn Anderson is missing every day at home watching for Glasgow. Will be home next year for the spree. And hello to my old pal Mike Grundon, who says, hello Tom, formerly of BBC Radio Shetland, watching with my mother at my new home in Cornwall. I'm wishing a great Up Helly Aa to all my friends and family in the Isles. I'll be up to see you all again soon. Richard Burney, who I suspect may be actually at the event live, says the intense heat is something else. Tight squeeze as the galley moves into the play park. Janine says, another year where we wish we could be with you. I hope all our friends in Shetland have an amazing night. Every year my kids shout at the TV, please don't burn the play park. Well, I know exactly how they feel because I have often been concerned about the swings and the various aspects of play equipment which are obviously immovable. And I think in the old days when they were made of metal and when it was all a bit concrete rather than sort of forgiving rubber to land on, they were moved, but no, they are there very much, and obviously they're not burnt. They know how to do. Vikings know how to preserve play parks. Ian Pearson remembers his first junior Up Helly Aa squad a long time ago. I'm watching from Edinburgh. And Bryce Slater, I was lucky enough to be there twice in the 1960s. It was absolutely stunning to see. I'd love to go back and see it one more time. Alison is enjoying the footage, which she says is fantastic. I can't wait to be in Shetland with my partner Barry later this year. Richard Oliver is in Llandloes. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I could be entirely wrong. And Liz and John Parry watching from Lincolnshire, wishing we were home in North Row. And Vivian Sinclairwood enjoying the courage again this year. All the best to the guys and girl and all the geysers watching in Aberdeenshire. Now, you see what I mean about skimpy dress? That is, you know, somebody who is genuinely hardy. Because even though the weather is reasonable, now there is somebody who I think is the Statue of Liberty, which interestingly may mean there's a bit of political insight going into some of the skits later on. This looks like a baseball team. Yeah, international flavour. Alan Ferry watching from Uphall, West Lothian. My wife and Viking daughter travelled up overnight on the ferry. I hope we all have a great night. Well, I was speaking to somebody who came up on the ferry because a couple of the ferries were cancelled earlier on in the weekend. But an American guest who's staying with us came up on the ferry and I think she's from the southern states. She said to me, I suppose you get used to this weather. And to an extent, that's true. I actually love this weather. The wilder the better. Oh, this is wild. This is calm. Oh, hello to Peter McLean, who's watching in Inverness. Former member of the constabulary here. Splendid live coverage. Lifts the spirits indeed. Thank you for the commentary. It fair takes me back. Really good insight into what potentially some of the squads will be performing as. It's like... it is very difficult to assess what might be happening in some cases. Hello to all our families so skinly watching back home in Shetland, really missing the roasted mutton soup today. If you want to find recipes for roasted mutton soup and you can get hold of roasted mutton by mail order, then just type it into Google and all will become, if not clear, adventurously entertaining, I think. Remember, second water. That's all I'm saying. Judith Archer, oh good, she's from Maryland and USA, but originally from West Virginia, so delighted that Country Roads has become the theme song for this year's Yarrow Squad. Hello to Paul Bloomer, local artist and indeed educator and expert in Northern Soul. Watching from the Black Country. Gutted I can't be there this year, but enjoying the live stream. Wishing everybody in Up Helly Aa a great night. What fuels the torches, says DMK? Well, paraffin, I think. Unless, of course, it's been changed to some environmentally friendly fuel that I know nothing of. But I'm pretty certain it's still paraffin, and that is what gives... I wonder if somebody's ever thought of bottling the smell of Up Helly Aa and selling it as a perfume. That would be a possibility, wouldn't it? I'm sure there's some entrepreneur locally who would be able to handle that. Jan Bommerson watching again from Groningen in the Netherlands. I've been to Up Helly Aa 4 times, loved it. Give my love to my friends Mike and Lorna of the Half Restaurant in Scalloway. Happy to do that. Mike Skinner, who helped, along with James Martin, teach one of my sons to bake, which has led to something of a career. Paisley Buddy here, Luda Matsukovska, who is joining the live stream for the very first time. What a spectacular event. All right. Now, I have to tell you that the Kirkcaldy District Band made the journey to Shetland to be part of the festival. Big shout out for them, says Angus Reid. Proud of our daughters Hannah and Abby, who play in the band. Go Kirkcaldy. And Jean Friedman says, greetings from Jean in Toms River. Now, there's a name. New Jersey, USA. Thank you for your broadcast. I've been watching on YouTube for 3 years. I'm glad it's more calm this year. Last year's wind made me nervous. And we're moving now towards the conclusion of the procession, the burning of the galley basin. As the circling begins in the play park. Complex manoeuvres galore. And you can see from the air, from our drone footage, well done Rory, how this is all going to take shape in spectacular fashion. Interesting, we've seen pictures earlier on of the spectacular stained glass in the town hall, and Linda has been in touch to say that in 2017 she was at Up Helly Aa whilst I was restoring the windows in the town hall with the 2010 guys of Jarl Ray Simpson. We had a great view of the light up from our studio in the old library. Hello to all. Oh, well done. And the windows are, if you ever are in Shetland, really spectacular. 2 sets of stained glass windows it's essential to see. One is actually more tricky to see in the Episcopal Church because they're hidden away a wee bit, but they're very important, and so are the ones in Lerwick Town Hall. A must visit. And easy to visit too. It's open nearly all the time. Unless, of course, there are council meetings going on, which occasionally happens. Kennedy Moore is sending all the best to Jarl Callum Grains and his squad. Excellent suit to match his superb squad. It is a terrific suit this year. I mean, they're always good, but this is spectacularly good. And as I mentioned earlier on, I'm very relieved to see that legs are covered, because, you know, wandering around for hour after hour in Shetland conditions, you not only need a hat, you need trousers, or at least some form of leg covering. Anyway, Kennedy is watching from the East Bray platform in the North Sea. So stay safe and enjoy the coverage. Now, Daniel Ewan is gutted he's not out this year. I'm watching from Edinburgh. I'm waiting for the arrival of my baby boy. Well, I think that's a good reason. We'll certainly let you off and wish all the best for that event when it happens, happily. And Derek Oliver's and Gala Shields. Boy is Good Up Helly Aa fra Norge, which I believe, being roughly translated, means have a good up Helly Aa from Norway. Languages. Julie Minty says, can you please give 15-year-old Poppy a shout out? She's watching with us and will be visiting Shetland for the first time in the summer. Happy to do that. Why did Iona says, why did they dance the Boston two-step in the halls? Well, I'll tell you. The Boston two-step, St. Bernard's Waltz, Canadian barn dance. That's all you need to know. When you start to Highland Scottishes and stuff like that, that's tricky. Those are easy dances, and they're also the only ones that I remember from school. Just to remind you, our coverage is coming from Shetland Webcams, sponsored by Northlink Ferries and Promote Shetland, and supported by local firms GTS and Shetland Broadband. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm Tom Morton. Still got a bit to go, including, of course, the culmination of the evening so far, the burning of the galley, which is imminent. Just a few stragglers to come in now as the circle begins to close and stop moving. Now we're about to hear from the guys of Jarl. Callum Grains, Captain Callum Grains, King Eyston Magnusson. One more song first.
Cheers for the guys again.
Three cheers for the Geyser Jarl, and now he has to get down from the ship and out of the range of the torches, which will any minute now begin arching their way towards the galley Bisson, and its end has arrived. An achingly sad moment, as well as a great triumphant moment, this conflagration, this transfer to Valhalla. Beautifully made and sacrificed. And I always think Halden Burgess's thoughts on Up Helly Aa and the emptiness of the ship, the fact that there is nobody in the ship, is actually quite significant given his background. And the first flaring torches arc towards the galley. The end is in sight. The fire begins. The smell, by the way, once the fire has dimmed down, remains in the air in Lerwick for hours afterwards. But right now, it's the full force of the fire that we're witnessing now. And those lucky enough visitors to be leaning over the wall of the King George V Play Park and seeing this, it is really quite extreme. You can genuinely feel the heat. See the sparks. And those of you who are watching at home are lucky enough too to get the drone pictures, which the folk who are actually on the ground, of course, can't see. this is my favourite Up Helly Aa song, The Northman's Home. Now, as I was saying during the burning of the galley in the junior Up Helly Aa, we're looking for significant moments here during this fire, and the first one will be the burning of the mast and the falling of the mast with its banner in the centre of the ship. Difficult to see at the moment because of the flames. And the second and final act will be the burning through of the dragon's head in the prow of the ship. Hello to Jodie Sutherland, who's in St Andrews. I'm a Shetlander watching all the way at university. I'm hoping to be back for it next year. Now, at St Andrews University, of course, you have to wear that robe. Or do you have to wear the red robe? Is that compulsory or not? I've never quite worked that out. I've been to St Andrews on many occasions. Let me see. Colin Stove is wishing Marvin a good night. Inga Thompson, hello from Barry in Ontario. Or from Barry. Is that a place or a person? Who can say? Lorraine is in Rutland, and hi to Karen, who's watching in the USA. Lauren says, hello Shetland. I'm so looking forward to the procession. You've missed it, but you can watch it again because it will be available online for a while. Shirley is in Dundee, and Maryland in USA. That's the second person, Gary, who is in Maryland. Cheryl is the first person to get in touch who is watching in Bulgaria. Sunny Beach. This place in Bulgaria is actually called Sunny Beach. I'd like to see that. Joan Hauser is in South Carolina, USA. A quick look at the YouTube channel. Looks amazing. Power Doo-Doo says, I wish I was there, but I'm in London. Why burn the ship? Well, there have been books written about it. But suffice to say, it's a symbol of Viking celebration of life, death, conquest, and the afterlife in heaven. Valhalla, as it would be called. Marie Jose is in Montreal, Quebec, which I have just been reading about. And Jack and Jill in Teesside. Thanks for the great coverage. Jill's mum is watching. It's from Tingwall. Please say hello. Hello to Jill's mum. And it gives me a chance to thank everyone who's been involved in putting together this live broadcast. All the team who've worked on it visually and audibly. A lot of hard work has gone into it. And a special thanks to those who've been sponsoring us, Northlink Ferries and Promote Shetland, and the support too from GTS and Shetland Broadband. Now, there was a time when this would have been a moment when there would have been a big fireworks display, but that has stopped in recent years. And in some ways, the fireworks were a kind of culmination of the celebrations, but also kind of distraction from the beauty and the poignancy of the burning of the galley. And so we can watch this as the galley enters its death throes and the mast seems certain to crumble any minute. Pleased to see that nobody's having a go in the swings, by the way. That would be most inappropriate. Bob Kerr says, thank you for the excellent coverage tonight, Tom. With a glass of port and my son beside me, we've enjoyed the coverage all the way from Dolberwick. It's approximately 7 miles away down the road. Thanks to all the technicians and sponsors indeed. Oh, Alan Goglin says, I remember watching Billy and Molly, the great documentary about the otter. If you haven't seen that, make sure you do watch it. It's on National Geographic on the telly. It is a really, really good documentary about an otter and how it adopts a family in Shetland. They attended this during the making of the programme, and now we are watching it from County Kerry in southwest Ireland. Pamela Williamson pointing out that there was a time when all the geysers had to stay in the park until the mast fell. Yeah, and I remember that. It's still a highly significant moment, and you have, I think, the more traditional elements of the festival doing just that and waiting for the mast and the prow to fall. Patty White says, I went to this channel. Is that the mast falling? Not quite yet. I went to this channel page and saw how this goes on for months in different towns. Well, not really months, mostly towards the end of February. There are 11 Up Helly Aa in total. And if you do fancy coming, there's still a possibility of getting to Shetland and going to visit some of the country Up Helly Aa and the island ones in Unst and Yell, in Delting and Bray, North Navan, and of course Smooha, South Mainland Up Helly Aa, which is probably now the second biggest after Lerwick. All of them welcome visitors, and in some ways it's easier to get into halls perhaps in some of them. Just go to the Promote Shetland webpage and the Northlink web pages and make your travel arrangements right now. Incidentally, I wonder if it's a good idea to have 2 fish suppers in one night. Would that be extreme? I'll take medical advice on that. Well, all I can say is they're obviously making the mast of very stern stuff. The Jarl, of course, is staying. Viv Horn pointing out as regards to fireworks that they terrify livestock and there's a lot of pregnant yows about just now. Good point. Bianca is an ex-Shetlander watching from Dundee. Say hello to my brother Dominic, Natty Black and his family. Patty White, I'm 68 years old. I have never heard or even seen such a thing. It is amazing. It looks like the whole town participates. Well, the flag is gone, but the mast is still standing. And we've got somebody watching from Wales for the first time from Cardiff University. That's Livy, with my Shetland flatmate, Martha and Lydia, all enjoying this, I hope. And greetings from Fairbanks, Alaska, says Nick. Had a great time with Papa Stewar's geology in May, Papa Stewart being one of our islands. And even more so in Bigton at the sauna. This is the famous Har sauna. Using an old horse box. Wild swimming and saunas. What's not to like? If you haven't seen the wild swimming programme with Greg Hempel and his wife on television, Greg and Jules Go Wild, I think it's called. The Shetland programme, which is the final one, is terrific. Hello to the Lawrences in Shetland. I'm missing the smell of paraffin. I'm hoping to be there next year. I'm watching from Bowness. Well, if you're in Bowness, you could nip down to Grangemouth. There might be a smell of paraffin. If not paraffin, certainly petrochemicals. And we're still waiting for the mast to fall over. It's actually quite a powerful symbol, isn't it? Myra Hunter Smith says, thank you for the wonderful broadcast. I was last in Shetland for the tall ships race, and we experienced a similar event. It's amazing. Thank you very much for from South Africa. And I love this place name. Hello from Budleigh Salterton. Budleigh Salterton. In Devon. So lovely to see my family are in Shetland, and my mum and I are coming home for the Lerwick Up Helly Aa. Great coverage. Thank you very much. I think we're in a situation where the prow of the dragon prow is going to disappear before the mast, which is new to me. Oh, that's the front. The foremast, in fact, has collapsed. I think, to be honest, this mast is going to disappear in a pile of ash before it falls over. Oh, and good to hear from Linda, who was the stained glass restorer we heard from earlier, who helped restore the stained glass windows in the town hall. We restored the Episcopal church windows in 2012 too, and Papastur. I can smell the paraffin from Glasgow. And there it goes. The mast has fallen. The dragon prow is burnt. And the first stage of Up Helly Aa is over, the procession and the great burning. And so the 1,000 or so squad members will proceed now to the 11 halls that are open throughout Lerwick. There will be partying, there will be a modicum of drinking, there will be lots of food and dancing. And a great time will be had by all right through until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The whole of Wednesday is a public holiday for the whole of Shetland. Thank you very much for joining me. I've been Tom Morton, and this has been Shetland Webcam's presentation of Up Helly Aa, the procession 2025. Thanks very much to our sponsors, Northlink Ferries and Promote Shetland, and the support from GTS and Shetland Broadband. Have a good evening.